Hive FM.
Yes, good morning. Just gone 11:24. Bang on time is Tony. They always say it's better to be 10 minutes earlier and a minute late. Is that correct? Is that something you would think about when you're going to see a customer?
I think if I'm going out to an appointment, if I'm on time, I'm late.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the market again, Tony. The last time you were in, I think, was November. Was it October, November?
Something like that. Yeah, about a month into broadcasting, weren't you?
And then you were in with Andy Anthony 3 weeks ago. That was a great program. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being here. You don't realise how emotional that journey's going to be.
Really?
Yeah, he had me in tears a couple of times.
Did he really?
Yeah, during that 10 songs. Yeah, well, I don't think we got through 10 songs because there was quite a lot of chat between, and I think I was a bit of a guinea pig for Anthony. But it was one of those things I really wanted to be involved and give it a go. Some people loved some of the choices, but it's all about the individual's choice, isn't it?
Well, it's your story, isn't it? It's your life. Because I was listening, and I mentioned to you when I was listening, and I heard you say the year you were born, and I thought, God, that's when I first started doing hospital radio. I thought, is that how old I am?
We won't reveal what that is.
I know exactly how old I am. I know exactly.
I'm only 32, so it's not so long ago, Willie.
So we're back again. We're looking at the market. So is this probably Christmas, December, January? Is it a dead time for estate agents and people thinking about selling a house?
I think it's quite interesting because I think if you asked most agents an honest opinion, they'd tell you December quietens down, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop, and I think the difficulty sometimes, and I've got, again, coming from an employed world, you do get a sense that in December, there's a bit less pressure on, the feet go up, the kettle's on more often, there is a little bit less happening, yes, but there are still opportunities out there. And I think the problem is if you're in the mindset of it's going to be quiet, you're not going to see the opportunities and it will be quiet. So we were really busy through the December period. We had a little bit of a lull during November, I think it was a bit of a post-budget blues, bit of a hangover from that. But once we got into December, we had a really good month and a really busy period as well between Christmas and New Year. And we take some time out collectively as a team to go and spend some time with our family and friends. But we had a sort of a 3-day window between Christmas and New Year where we were out and about doing viewings and doing all the necessaries really and making sure that people who were wanting to view could. And it resulted in some good sales being put together. So it is a quieter time, generally speaking. If you look at the numbers, you can almost see the dip in performance of agents. And actually, you can also see it on the property performance reports I see on Rightmove for each property that's listed. You can always pick out the day of Christmas because there is a dip down and not so many people are looking online on Christmas Day at Rightmove. But it does soon pick up again after that period. You get, I think, families spending a lot of time together at Christmas. You get a lot of families then making plans at Christmas. What's their 2025 going to look like? Maybe they've got an elder relative who's come to them or they've gone to them. And they're thinking about becoming a multi-generational family. And it just sets the seed of, right, what we're going to do in 2025. Is this our last Christmas in this home? And then they start the new year looking. And this time of year typically is a very busy time of year for new instructions into the market.
So the question would be for me, and I'm going to play a layman here. So what do you call? Do you call taking new instructions being busy or completing sales, or is it a bit of both?
I think there's lots of plates to spin in an estate agency. It's one of the, if you're a sales office of you're selling, computers or laptops, you can quantify your performance by how many units are going out the door and how many times you're being paid. So yes, that is definitely one of the metrics, but I think the first metric for me starts right at the front end of how many valuations you've been asked to go to, what's your diary looking like. If you've got very little forward booked in your diary for valuation, that initial assessment of what a property's worth and meeting a client for the first time and maybe being one of 2, 3, 4 agents maybe going out to that property, then you clearly need to sort of ramp up your focus on generating more valuation opportunities, because without the valuation you can't get the opportunity to win the instruction. And winning the instruction for me is like getting the job over another candidate. So I go into a valuation very much like it's a job interview, I suppose. Want to build some rapport, understand their needs, understand their wants, how long they've been there, what they've done for the property. Just get a good understanding of them, really. I may have met them before, I may not have, but if they've been there for 25 years, there's a good chance I haven't. So I'd like to know a little bit about how long they've been there, why did they come here, What are they looking to do next in their time there? What have they done to the property? Get a real understanding. And of course then it moves on. So if you've then secured the instruction, listings I suppose becomes another metric. Listings being new properties into the market. Listings, if any agent tells you they're going out to 10 valuations and getting 10 instructions, they're probably either cherry picking their valuations or they're not quite telling the truth. I would say that typically if I meet 10 people who are looking to sell, it may well be that 4 or 5 have got genuine ambitions about making a move, maybe 6 out of 10. But there are often 2 or 3 or maybe 4 in that 10 who are just curious. They just want to understand what the market's doing. They want to understand where their property position starts. But let's not forget, that conversation in January or February can often be the missing piece of the jigsaw they need to put on the table to see their full plan in front of them, which may then accelerate their plans if perhaps the value is higher than they expected, or the market's better than anticipated, or the property they want is in the market now. And there is definitely a divide. People often say to me, what do I do first? Do I put my house on the market, or do I find the property I want to buy? And I don't think there's a right answer to that question. I think that the brutal reality is some people are more prepared to put their own home to the market, which they've been in for a long time, if they can find a property that they really want to go after. They're motivated to secure that property, but to do that they need to sell their own. And equally there are other people on the other side of the coin who are happy to put their home to the market and see what happens, and hopefully secure a buyer at some point not too far down the line, and then start their search for a new property. And I think for me the perfect blend is kind of somewhere in the middle. If I was looking to move, I would sort of get my home ready for market. I would have an idea of which agent I want to take my property to the market to give me the best audience and generate me the best interest and get me the best sale price ultimately. And therefore I may even have that agent with photographs already taken, the marketing already ready. And then I'd start my search and have a look round. And then when I find what I want, I can say to the agent, right, I found what I'm after, press the button, let's get this show on the road. So I think there's a variety of different ways you can kind of get properties to the market. But back to the original question, I think the next metric is then how many forward book viewings have you got in the diary? Because it's all right having loads of stock.
Yeah.
It's all right having your shop window looking great. But if nobody's coming in the door, and viewings are clients coming in the door, if you like, to prospectively buy something, then again you've perhaps got an issue. So do we need to focus on the viewings? And of course then from viewings, what's turning into offers, and what offers are we getting that we can do some negotiation work on to make sure that we feel confident for our clients we've achieved the best possible price. So there's lots of different metrics in there, and I always say to the team, I think the focus at the moment isn't necessarily on new instructions and valuations. That's taking care of itself. Can we find some new offers to put together, some deals to put together, some sales to agree, so that we can get people then moving on?
So if you look at the market, I've bought and sold many times over the years. You're a little bit unique. We mentioned this before as an estate agent. I think you're unique in a few ways. There's a few estate agents who sell differently. They don't have a shop front. You don't have a shop front, but you're a busy guy. Yeah. What would you say? Now I know I've probably asked you this question before. What makes Tony Ruby estate agent stand out? Because there's a couple of things that comes to mind for me. First of all, meeting you. Right now, I hadn't met you until you popped into the studio before, and that you're a very warm guy. It's like buying cars or selling cars. It's, if you don't particularly like the person, you might not buy from them. But you've got that likeable personality. I could see you coming in. You're honest. They've never had a great name, estate agents, but you don't have a shop front, and there must be. Well, in fact, you tell me, how many estate agents are there in town?
I think sort of frontline major. I'd say major players. That sounds a little bit arrogant. I would say that there are probably a good 7 or 8 with shop fronts on the high street. There's probably a further and prominent shop fronts on the high street, but I would say there's probably a further 5 or 6, maybe even 7 that are, again, probably a little bit more like myself. And going back some years ago, it was probably deemed more of a hybrid model, a hybrid sort of way of dealing with business. I think what I experienced during my time employed was definitely a curtailment of the in-office activity with prospective sellers, prospective buyers. And that makes you then wonder, do you need something that's on the high street with all the associated costs that go with it? People don't walk the street anymore and look in the agent's window very often. And I remember, when I was in my employed days, the company spent quite a bit of money on refurbishing the office. It looks stunning, fantastic, beautiful place to work. It was really well thought out. But the reality was people coming through the door were probably predominantly energy assessors to pick up keys for energy assessments, lettings tradespeople to go and fetch keys from lettings to do various different jobs in rental properties, and very, very few, I suppose what you'd call tangible clients, prospective clients or prospective buyers. So a lot of our business, I suppose, is achieved either in the property on a viewing, or in the property when you're doing a valuation, or over the telephone, or via video call, or via face-to-face meeting. And what we'll often do is utilise the wealth of brilliant coffee shops we've got in Grantham to perhaps execute some of those meetings where we can't perhaps have the meeting in the lounge because it might be rented, for example. So we try to find a way to work around it. But for me, there's been the core values have always been around communication and quantity of communication. I think the biggest reason I saw people leave and business I've worked for in the past was because the communication wasn't strong enough. I wanted to make sure the quality of marketing was kind of more Knight Frank, Savills, Fine and Country than just photographs on iPhones. And iPhones are great phones these days, but when we're selling something for £250,000 or £500,000, I think the properties deserve a little bit more than that, so we professionally photograph everything. The video tours were always something we did in sort of 2015-16 starting. Got more detailed as we went through COVID because people needed to be able to view, and they could only travel to view if they were in a position to be able to proceed. So I didn't want people travelling unnecessarily. I thought the video would allow them to either factor it into their decision making or take it out of their decision making. But such was the feedback on that I thought, well, actually that needs to stay as well. It takes time, it takes effort, and there are some days you don't want to do it, but you've just got to. It's about the package we put together. But I think for me, it all comes back to the relationship with the individual. I don't like being sold to. As an individual, I hate it when somebody approaches me and says, "Do you want a credit card? Do you want a gas central?"
Hate it.
To me, I just don't like it. I find
but you like selling, and I like selling.
But I think it's a different method. I think it's about understanding the needs, listening, and then essentially like matching people together with the property, isn't it? It's a little bit like, I suppose, a bit like dating, matchmaking sort of applications, but for property. And I think ironically that in the industry I work in, property just happens to be the product. The real business is actually people. Where they're at in life. Every single person who's a seller or a buyer is in a different stage in their journey in life. So again, understanding their needs and their wants, and understanding understanding their why, I think allows me then to perhaps give a bit more of a rounded personal service. And I think that was, for me, the big difference, was about making things personal, not just being another number. Whether you're a buyer, whether you're a seller, I don't want just you to feel like another number. I want you to feel like you're an important part of our journey, and they are a very important part of our journey, because without valuation opportunities, we've got no business.
So when you decided to set up the business, you set it up with your wife?
Yeah, so initially set it up on my own. Back in June 21, we kind of went live. Sarah had a little cleaning business, which she really loved. She had clients which she'd been working for 5 or 6 years, 7 years. She couldn't find somebody to take it on. We spoke to a number of people to sort of pick it up, because I felt I needed at the time a bit more support around me. And that was Sarah really coming forward to help on the front end of speaking to prospective buyers, registering their details properly, taking them out on viewings and doing that, just alleviate a bit of pressure on myself. And then latterly we got into 2023, so coming up towards 2 years, in 2 years actually next week, since Nadine joined us, who's my PA, a fantastic human being. Never mind what she does for me, but she's just an incredible human being. She makes my life significantly easier. She takes a lot of, whilst I'm with you right now, my phone is on divert, so people who might be trying to get hold of me directly are at least speaking to a real human. They're not just leaving a voicemail and wondering if I've got it and everything else. And then latterly we've added a young man, Ross, to the team, who joined us in June of 2024, really with the idea that I want Ross to become the next generation agent. So he's my project, if you like. Been very clear with him about this since I started talking to him back in about May time. He did a couple of years in the industry as an apprentice, which I think perhaps just meant he was quite cheap labour for a couple of years, and he needs his time invested into him. So we've invested time and a lot of it, but it's great seeing his development. It's really rewarding seeing that. And if Ross comes to me at some point in the future and says one of two things, either, Tony, I'm ready to go on my own now and fly my own way, then fantastic. I feel like I've achieved something. And I think secondly to that, if Ross says, actually, do you know what, Tony, I want to stay under your brand, I think I've achieved something. But then once we come to that milestone moment, I'll have another one, and I'll create another one. So for me, I think the problem with estate agency for the clients over the last 10 years or so is that the experience they get isn't particularly wonderful across the board. I'm not isolating anybody particularly there, but there are some agencies, even in town, which only complete on 48% of what they take to the market. So that's 48 times out of 100.
That's quite low.
Yeah,
seems low.
The UK average is 53%.
Is it really?
Yeah. So
wow.
You consider, and why is that? And it's often for a variety of different reasons. We could spend all day talking about that. But I think ultimately it comes back to the fact that they're probably not the seller's not being communicated with particularly well. Even if they've got not a great deal to tell them, there's a lot you can talk to them about, including what's going on in the marketplace around them. And that might answer the question as to why they're not able to sell right now.
Right.
But I think if we can get all that right, then Ross, as a young man coming up to his 21st birthday in April, will be able to work through with his network of friends in terms of buying their first home. Invariably, then they'll end up in a relationship and may need something bigger. Then they'll have children. They'll need something bigger.
Bigger house, yeah.
And for me, having someone like Ross, I suppose, working with that generation, for me, feels like a perfect fit. I think the biggest challenge again in the industry is that the average UK estate agent's wage used to be pretty healthy compared to the UK average wage, and now it's a smidge above the minimum wage.
So why is that? I mean, is it because it's a cutthroat business where you're looking to market a house? You think, well, look, I can do it for 2%, I can do it for 1%. Does that, or do you have a stable? Yeah. Do you have a stable price? When you market a house,
we work at a set rate.
Your set rate, okay,
yeah, and that's 1.65% plus VAT.
Okay,
and we're very proud of the fact that everybody pays the same. Again, one of my biggest frustrations, I think, in previous employed roles was that you could have two houses on the market for similar money, and depending on who went to see them, might mean that they're on two wildly different fees, and that doesn't feel fair. That feels very wrong because they're getting exactly the same people working for them in the office, exactly the same people going out and doing the viewings. And I think coming back to the question, the problem is probably twofold. One is that agents over the last 12 years or so since Purple Bricks came into being have decided to chase the fee downwards. So the average UK estate agent back in 2010 used to charge 1.75%. That probably is now just a smidge over 1%. Yes, house prices have gone up, so that's countered some of that loss there, if you like. But a race to the bottom, that means then you can't recruit the right numbers of people or the right quality of people to service those clients in the best possible way. And I think that then goes back to the fact that the UK average estate agent only completes on 53% out of 100 properties that go on the market.
And what's your completion rate?
Just over 90%.
That's
staggering.
A massive difference. Staggering. A massive difference.
So I worked that out really by taking
that's fantastic.
Number of properties completed plus the number of properties withdrawn, and we get withdrawals for various reasons. Sometimes it can be change of circumstances. Sometimes it could be the property they're after has now gone off the market. They can't buy it, so they come off. But if you add those two numbers together and work out the percentage, it's just a smidge.
That you must be very. That's brilliant.
The one thing that is the one thing I'm most proud of in our business.
So could I ask you the question? You probably don't know the answer. Perhaps you do. How would that compare percentage-wise with any other estate agent in town?
Well, roughly speaking, there'll be. I mean, again, across the town, I've got a great friend who works in property statistics called Chris Watkin. He's
Chris.
Guy. Yeah. And we often sit down and go through a magnificent piece of software he's got called 20EA. And that basically does loads of work in the background to understand exactly how good an agent is at putting a house on the market at the right money in the first place, and basically judging the initial listing price to the eventual price it hits the land registry at, and working out a percentage, and also how many properties are taken to the market, how many are withdrawn, and how many complete. That's where they get the percentages from for completion rates. It's a phenomenal piece of software. And there are agents in town, like I say, at 48%. There are some agents in town at 65% and 71% and 77%. So there's a good. Agents in Grantham are very good. There's no two ways about that. I'm not knocking anybody else and what they do and how they choose to do their business. There's an awful lot, as ever, in this industry of going after properties that are on the market with other agents. It's called touting. And they, an agent will refer to somebody who's on the market at the moment with another agency as being low-hanging fruit, easy to get at. But it's not something we get involved in. We don't bother chasing stock that's on the market with other agents. I don't think it's right for anybody else to question the decision of a seller as to whether they've made the wrong call or the right call. It's up to the seller to make a decision on who they choose to instruct their home to go to the market with.
But it's important, though, if I was buying, that's important information, that is, of your conversion rate.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, because obviously everybody wants to sell their house if they've got it in the market, and they want the best price.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got a guy saying, look, we convert 95% or 90%, it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, but there's a lot of, I think, I love property. I mentioned this to you earlier. I built a lot of houses, sold a lot of houses, I've refurbished houses, and I think it's an interesting market. And when I've always bought something, I look at one thing only, and I'm looking, am I going to make some money on this? And that's the bottom line. If I'm buying for myself, which is a little bit different, I'm more thinking about the location, and we're going to be happy here. We currently live in Belton Lane now. We lived at Barkston, and we built a house there. Moved to Belton Lane, and we love it. And I have to say that the estate agent who sold it for me done a fabulous job.
Right.
100% fabulous job. But he knocked on my door.
Right. What's really important, Willie, is you tell other people by leaving a review.
Yeah.
The world we live in today, again, anything we want to buy, whether it be a phone or a pen or whatever, it doesn't matter what you want to buy. There's a review platform somewhere that will tell you how good that product is, or how
and that's good.
Service is. Yeah, without a doubt.
And that's, I mean, funny enough, my wife and I went out last week for Valentine's night. We went to the Angel, and we've been using that place for years. But we like it. We like the ambience. We like everything. And it was that good. Yeah. I thought I need to leave a review, and I did. And thank me for it, by the way. But it's nice. We need to take a bit of a break here, and we'll get back to it. A little question I wanted to ask you just before we go to that. What would you say is the most desirable place to buy in Grantham?
Right, okay. Well, I think historically, if you want me to answer the question now, then that people will often throw, if you ask the question, I think, on the high street of 10 random Grantham people, I think most people would state somewhere like Manthorpe Road, Barry Road, Belton Lane in Grunaby, Belton Lane in Grantham. The 10 most expensive places to buy in Grantham are all gardens and courts.
Right.
So going back a few years ago, I actually did a series of the top 30 house prices in Grantham. And when I was doing my research, your Belton Gardens, your King's Courts, these were kind of the top of the tree. Manthorpe Road, surprisingly, was number 12. But you have to remember, Manthorpe Road's also got a number of terraced houses, which brings the average price down a little bit.
Sure.
So I personally am a massive fan of Belton Lane, especially down the end when you get towards Belton House. I do love, we had some great successes selling houses on Manthorpe Road, a couple of houses next door to each other actually, and they overlook Queen Elizabeth Park at the back. But we've also sold some fantastic houses on estates. I'm thinking of some on the Manthorpe estate, and also Barraby Village, but also Barraby Gate, Barraby Lodge, that kind of area of town. Some phenomenal properties across Grantham.
I mean, many years ago, and again, you're looking for people where they're going to buy and where they're going to educate their children. The estate, many, many years ago, when we were thinking about our children growing up, and the estate appeared to be Manthorpe Estate, because Cliffdale was seen as probably the best primary school in town.
Yeah, we've got a very good primary school. Of course, now Priory Ruskin's a phenomenal school as well.
Farewell. Nothing's gonna break the spell. If you're thinking lean on me. Though we sail on stormy seas, nothing good comes easily, but I won't let you down. I will be faithful to my lover's prayer, faithful, and I don't care if the world around us gives up on love. I will make you see you can count on me. I will be faithful, faithful to my lover's prayer. You can lean on me, you can lean on me. Baby, you can lean on me, you can lean on me. Baby, you can lean on me, lean on me. Baby, you can lean on me, you can lean on me. Just say, baby, this is not goodbye. There's no need for you to cry. What we've got's too strong to be denied. Yeah. I will be faithful to my lover's prayer, faithful, and I don't care if the world around us gives up on love. I will make you see you can count on me. I will be faithful to my lover's prayer, faithful to the dream we share. If the world around us gives up on love, I will make you see you can count on me. I will be faithful, faithful to my lover's prayer. Oh, faithful to the dream we share. We'll be faithful.
Grantham's Hive FM. Make life easy with Domestic Bliss Specialist Cleaning Services and Laundry Bliss. Providing reliable and cost-effective domestic cleaning, hazardous cleaning, end of tenancy, one-off deep cleans and more, including domestic and commercial washing, drying and ironing services. Also offering discounts for blue light and defence service workers. Call Grantham 850 122. Visit Domestic Bliss and Laundry Bliss at 105 London Road or see online at domesticblissgrantham.co.uk.
Looking to open up your living space? Need to remove a load-bearing wall but not sure where to start? At Amberley Construction, we specialise in the safe removal of load-bearing walls and expert RSJ installations for homes in Grantham and beyond. From applying for building regulations to calculating the correct steel and working with building control, we handle the entire process so you don't have to. Local, trusted and fully insured, Amberley Construction makes transforming your home easier than ever. Call us today on 01476 247 770 or visit amberleyconstruction.co.uk to get your project started.
For superb flooring options, visit Richard Malley Floor Designs on Withenbrook Park, Grantham. Along with quality carpeting, vinyls, wood and LVT flooring. We're also an accredited Carndine retailer. In the beautiful showroom, you'll find a wide range of flooring samples and benefit from expert help and advice to assist you in making the right choice. Plus, Richard and his team are highly experienced floor layers with great knowledge and attention to detail. Richard Malley Floor Designs also provide flooring for landlords and commercial clients such as schools and healthcare. See the range today. Visit malleyfloors.com or call 01476 564 718. See social media or better still, call in to the stunning showroom.
Don't have any plans on Saturday night? You do now. Join me every Saturday at 7 p.m. for Laura's Millennial Mix. I'll be playing 2 hours of pop music from the 90s, noughties and onwards, which I can guarantee will get you bopping along. If you know your Spice Girls to your S Club, Backstreet Boys to your Busted and your A1 to your Ariana, then this is the show for you. So join me for Laura's Millennial Mix every Saturday evening, 7 till 9 p.m. here on Hive FM. See you there.
Hi, it's Bobby Dixon here, Hive FM's roving reporter, with news of this week's competition. The competition is for two £25 vouchers, so two winners this week for King's Walk Cafe in Grantham. King's Walk Cafe are a local independent cafe serving home-cooked food and cakes, and also providing a first-class customer service, and always aim to give a high level of customer experience, all from their incredible staff. Always serve great quality food, along with a large variety of drinks. Located 2 to 3 King's Walk in Grantham. To book a table, call 01476 563 922, or alternatively email kingswalkcaf@outlook.com. Good luck, everybody.
Well, it's just gone 5 minutes to midday. Tony Rubin in the studio. I think we never have enough time, Tony. We need to make this a day of the next time.
My fault, I think.
But let's wrap up before the news. Let's talk about the current situation in Grantham and how the market's going at this moment in time.
Sure. So every 2 weeks or so we update our clients with an indication of what's going on in the marketplace. I always break it down into NG31, 32, which is villages sort of typically on the outskirts of Grantham, and NG33 is a bit more south of Grantham and wraps around, and NG23 is kind of up towards Long Bennington. So I like to sort of examine both of those. I mean, NG32 this year so far is 100% up on sales at the same point it was last year. So last year there was 19 sales agreed in the period of 1st of January to the 19th of February. And then this year it's at 39. And interestingly, not loads and loads of new stock coming into the market in NG32. In Grantham, it's still up again on the same point last year, but not by 100%. It's probably up more like 10 or 15% in terms of sales agreed. That tells me there's life in the market. Obviously, we've had an interest rate adjustment with the Bank of England around 2.5 weeks ago. The Bank of England meet again, I think, on the 20th of March. It was widely expected there might be another reduction, but then this week we've had inflation data come out which suggests it's climbed to 3%. That might just curtail the interest rates falling again when they meet again in March. But all of these little signs are encouraging more people towards the market. You know, the days of 0.5% base rate are long behind us. I don't think we'll ever get back there. But a lot of the forecasts talk that by the end of this year we could well be down to 3.5%, 3.75%. But they are predictions and things can change. And the biggest challenge, I think, in Grantham over the last couple of years is that those who are looking to upsize, a family in a 3-bedroom detached or 3-bedroom semi looking to get to a 4-bedroom home and need more space, have probably been slightly hamstrung by interest rates. That extra £100,000 borrowing or £150,000 borrowing is going to smart a little bit when the interest rates you're getting from lenders are at 5% plus. But since the base rate reduction, we've seen lenders dropping their rates continuously, and they always give a good indication, I think, as what the market's going to look like. So at the moment, interest rates are probably as competitive as they've been for a little while.
So still a good time to buy?
I think it's a great time to be buying. I think people always say, when's the right time? When's the best time? The best time is when it's right for you. Because you're going to be in. It's not a short-term buy it today, sell it next month. Buy it today, sell it next year.
Long-term.
You're going to be long-term, and generally speaking, over the course of time, property prices only go one way. There are peaks and troughs, and there could be some times where you buy in 2007 and 2 years later it's worth 15% less. That's a rarity. People talked a lot about a price crash in 2022, 2023. It never came. Yes, we had a bit of a correction on price by a couple of percent, but actually prices today are roughly back where they were at the peak of the market last in June 2022.
So would you expect, if you're buying a house, we all say that rent's dead money. And arguably that could be the case. And they all say the best investment you would always make is buying your own house. I advocate that to my children. They get on the property ladder, and as an instance, my son bought a house. I won't mention which street it is because the next door neighbours just sold hers within 3 days. He bought his 2 years ago come March, and if we look like for like, which is, again, we must talk about this sometimes and how you value your property. However, like for like, and in essence, his house could have gone up by £35,000, which is a massive increase. Okay, we've done some changes, put a new roof on, put a shower room in, which I'm not quite sure it constitutes to that rise. But it's still a great investment for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Price is ultimately dictated by buyers. I think as an agent, really, your job is to try to read the market and give people advice based upon what buyers will do. Best price is achieved by having interest and engagement and competition, dare I say, from a number of buyers who want to buy that property. So sometimes a lower asking price can be used with the terminology of offers over or guide price or something to push people in the right direction. We can talk about valuing properties all day long, but I think for me, renting property is a really good viable option for some people.
Sure.
Because it if you're moving to a new area, for example, you don't quite know where you want to buy. At least renting gives you a chance to feel that. Some people are just not in the fortunate position to be able to buy. But if you look at most long-term life wealth, it often originates from home ownership.
Sure.
Or the alternative to home ownership is your money into investments long term, and then perhaps living as you wish to, as flexibly as you need to. But the problem sometimes with renting is landlords do often need to sell, and at the moment the landlord market is challenging. Landlords are more often than not having conversations with me about selling their assets rather than buying new assets in. So of course we're seeing rents rocket really high as well, because actually the amount of landlords that are active at the moment is actually diminishing every week that goes by.
Is that not
goes by?
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 Is that not
goes by?